CEO Billionaire sees his ex-girlfriend waiting for Uber with three 6-year-old boys identical to him. He cries before we dive into the story. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The scorching July sun beat down on Boston's congested streets, turning the city into a shimmering mirage of heat and impatience. Luxury cars honked ceaselessly in gridlocked traffic, their occupants growing increasingly frustrated as minutes stretched into hours. Among them, a sleek black Bentley stood out, not for its elegance but for the man who had just emerged from its back seat. Alexander Bennett, 38, CEO of Bennett Innovations and one of America's youngest self-made billionaires, stood on the sidewalk adjusting his immaculate Italian suit. The past 6 years expanding his tech empire across Asia had transformed him from a merely successful entrepreneur into a global business titan. His handsome features, now weathered with experience and authority, reflected the confidence of a man accustomed to bending the world to his will. "I'll continue on foot, James," Alex said, dismissing his driver with a casual wave. "This traffic is going nowhere, and I need to stretch my legs after that long flight." The driver looked concerned. "But sir, your penthouse is still almost a mile away, are you sure?" Alex nodded, grabbing his leather briefcase. "Absolutely. I need some fresh air, or what passes for it in this city." As he walked along the unfamiliar streets of his hometown, Alex observed how much had changed during his absence. New skyscrapers punctuated the skyline, old familiar buildings had disappeared, and the pace seemed even more frantic than he remembered. His mind, however, was elsewhere, mentally reviewing his packed schedule for the week. Meetings, investment, pitches, a potential billion-dollar acquisition, all calculated with the precision that had defined his life for the past decade. Nothing left to chance, nothing unplanned, until something completely unexpected happened, something that all the MBAs in the world couldn't have prepared him for. As he turned a corner to avoid a particularly crowded intersection, his attention was drawn to a Walmart entrance. It wasn't the store itself that caught his eye, but rather the scene unfolding outside it. A woman in her mid-30s was attempting to corral 3 identical boys while balancing grocery bags. The boys, about 6 years old, darted around her, energetically as she called out to them, "Ryan, don't run. Ethan, give your brother back his action figure. Caleb, please stay close for just 1 minute." That voice. Alex felt his heart accelerate. It was a voice he hadn't heard in years, but would recognize anywhere. A voice that instantly transported him back to a past he had tried so hard to bury. Lauren, the name escaped his lips before he could stop himself. His feet felt rooted to the sidewalk. He wanted to move, wanted to walk away, but something held him there, watching the scene unfold like a slow-motion film. As his eyes moved across the faces of the 3 boys, a terrifying pattern began to form in his mind. The shape of their green eyes, his eyes, the distinctive jawline that had graced 3 generations of Bennett men, the way one of them tilted his head when curious, exactly as Alex did in board meetings. Without realizing it, Alex took a step forward, then another, and another, until he found himself standing just feet away from Lauren Parker and the 3 boys. One of the boys noticed him first. "Mom, who's that man in the suit looking at us?" Lauren, who had been fixing another boy's shoelace, looked up. Her eyes widened in recognition, and for a brief moment Alex saw a whirlwind of emotions pass through those eyes he once knew so well: surprise, pain, anger, and fear. "Alex," her voice came out as a whisper, barely audible amidst the city noise. He took another step forward, his throat suddenly dry. "Lauren, these children." Before he could finish his sentence, the light changed, and people began moving around them, breaking the moment of tension. Lauren, as if waking from a trance, quickly began to hustle the boys toward the parking lot. "We need to go," she said, her voice strained. "Wait," Alex called, his mind racing. "Please. Can we talk?" Lauren hesitated, then reached into her purse and hastily scribbled something on a receipt. "Tomorrow, noon, Brewster's Cafe on Maple Street." And with that, she ushered the 3 boys away, leaving Alex standing alone on the sidewalk, his world completely upended. As he watched them disappear into the crowd, The realization hit him with the force of a physical blow. Those three identical boys with his eyes and his jawline. The timing. 6 years after he'd left. The way Lauren had looked at him. A mixture of defensiveness and resignation. "They're mine," he whispered to himself, the words both foreign and terrifying on his tongue. A distant rumble of thunder drew his attention to the sky. Dark clouds were rolling in rapidly, but Alex barely noticed. Even as rain began to fall, first in sparse drops, then in a heavy downpour, he remained rooted to the spot, oblivious to his expensive suit becoming drenched. In that moment, all his carefully constructed plans, all his business success seemed suddenly and utterly insignificant. In the space of minutes, his entire world had been turned upside down. The man who had conquered global markets now stood lost on a street corner, faced with a reality he never imagined. He was a father to 3 children he hadn't known existed. Night passed like a blur for Alexander. Hours dragged by as he paced his penthouse, alternating between staring at the ceiling and gazing at the Boston skyline. When morning finally arrived, he looked haggard, deep circles under his bloodshot eyes. The reflection that stared back at him in the bathroom mirror was barely recognizable. Stubble darkening his usually clean-shaven face, his customary confident expression replaced by one of profound uncertainty. By 11:30, Alex was seated at Brewster's Cafe, his fingers nervously drumming on his untouched coffee cup. Each time the door opened, his heart leaped into his throat. At precisely noon, she walked in. Lauren Parker, still beautiful but with new lines of determination etched around her eyes. She spotted him immediately, hesitated briefly, then walked purposefully to his table. "You look terrible," she said, sitting down. Alex attempted a smile. "Hello to you too, Lauren." An awkward silence fell between them, years of unspoken words hanging in the air. "Those boys," Alex finally said, his voice barely a whisper. "They're mine, aren't they?" Lauren studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, Alex. Ryan, Ethan, and Caleb are your sons. Our sons." The words hit Alex like a physical blow. He knew it was coming, of course, but hearing her say it made everything real in a way that his sleepless night of speculation hadn't. "How?" he stammered, immediately regretting the foolish question. Lauren gave a bitter laugh. "I think you know how babies are made, Alex. Or have you forgotten our last night together before you left for Asia?" Memories flooded Alex's mind. Their passionate goodbye, whispered promises, plans for the future that had seemed so bright. "But why didn't you tell me? I had a right to know." Lauren's eyes narrowed. "I tried to tell you, Alex. I called your cell dozens of times. I sent emails, messages. I even went to your company's office here in Boston but was turned away at reception. You simply disappeared from my life." Alex felt shame wash over him. He remembered how in those first months in Asia, he had deliberately ignored Lauren's attempts to contact him. At the time, he'd convinced himself it was for the best, that he needed to focus on his career, that a long-distance relationship would only hold him back. I'm sorry," he mumbled, knowing the words were wholly inadequate. "Being sorry doesn't change the fact that I raised 3 children alone for 6 years, Alex," Lauren replied, her voice trembling with contained emotion. "It doesn't erase the sleepless nights, the financial struggles, the sacrifices. I want to meet them properly," Alex said suddenly. "I want to be part of their lives." Lauren observed him for a long moment, assessing the sincerity of his words. "It's not that simple. You can't just appear in their lives after 6 years and expect everything to be fine. Please, Lauren, give me a chance to make things right." She sighed, then nodded slowly. "Friday evening. Come to our house at 6 p.m., but this will be on my terms, at my pace. And if I see this affecting the boys negatively, it's over. Understand?" Alex nodded eagerly. "Yes, absolutely. Whatever you say." Lauren wrote her address on a napkin and slid it across the table. "The boys will have finished dinner by then. It'll just be a short visit for you to meet them." As she stood to leave, Alex called after her, Lauren, thank you. She paused, looking back at him. Don't thank me yet, Alex. For my boys, you're a stranger. For me, you're someone who hurt me deeply. It will take time to rebuild any kind of trust. The modest, two-story house in Brighton looked nothing like the luxury properties Alex typically frequented. As he parked his Bentley along the curb at precisely 5:55 p.m. on Friday, he felt distinctly out of place in this middle-class neighborhood where children's bicycles dotted front yards and family sedans filled driveways. For the 10th time, Alex checked his reflection in the rearview mirror, straightened his casual button-down shirt — Lauren had specifically requested no suits — and took a deep breath. In his hand, he clutched 3 identical gift bags containing carefully selected presents, model airplanes for boys who, according to Lauren's brief text, were fascinated with flight. The doorbell's cheerful chime contrasted sharply with the storm of anxiety inside him. When the door swung open, Lauren stood there, her expression a practiced mask of calm. "You're on time," she noted, stepping aside to let him in. "The boys are in the living room. I've told them that you're an old friend who just discovered you're their father." Alex nodded, his throat too tight for words. As he followed Lauren down the short hallway, the sound of animated conversation grew louder. Then suddenly there they were, 3 identical boys with his eyes sitting on a worn but comfortable-looking couch, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright suspicion. "Boys," Lauren said, her voice gentle but firm, "this is Alexander Bennett. He's your father." An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Alex stood frozen, unsure what to do or say to these 3 small humans who shared his DNA but were complete strangers to him. One of the boys, wearing a red t-shirt with a rocket ship, stood up first. "I'm Ryan," he announced, extending his hand with surprising confidence. "I'm the oldest by 4 minutes." Alex couldn't help but smile as he shook the small hand. "It's very nice to meet you, Ryan." Another boy, this one in a blue shirt and with a more thoughtful expression, approached more cautiously. "I'm Ethan. I'm in the middle. Are you really our dad? How come we never met you before?" The directness of the question caught Alex off guard. Before he could formulate a response, the third boy, wearing green and remaining firmly on the couch, crossed his arms. "He probably didn't want to meet us," the boy said, his young face already mastering a scowl that Alex recognized from his own childhood photos. "That's why he never came before." "Caleb," Lauren admonished gently, "remember what we talked about? Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes." Alex set down the gift bags and knelt to be at eye level with the boys. "Your mother is right. I made a big mistake by not being here. I didn't know about you until I saw you at the store the other day, but that's no excuse. If I had known, I would have been here sooner." Caleb's scowl didn't fade. "Do you have other kids?" "No," Alex answered honestly. "You 3 are my only children." Ryan, ever the icebreaker, pointed to the bags. "Are those for us?" The evening progressed with awkward starts and stops. Ryan bombarded Alex with questions about his travels. Ethan quietly observed everything with intelligent eyes, and Caleb maintained a defensive distance. When Lauren announced it was bedtime, Alex realized 2 hours had flown by in what felt like minutes. As he prepared to leave, Lauren walked him to the door. "It went better than I expected," she admitted. "They're amazing, Lauren," Alex said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've done an incredible job raising them." For the first time, Lauren's expression softened slightly. "Would you like to come to Ryan's baseball game tomorrow? 10 a.m. at Franklin Park." Alex nodded eagerly. "I'll be there." As he drove back to his empty penthouse, 3 small faces occupied his thoughts, and for the first time in years, spreadsheets and profit margins were the furthest things from his mind. Alexander arrived at Franklin Park 30 minutes early, nervously scanning the sparse Saturday morning crowd for familiar faces. He'd spent hours researching youth baseball rules, determined not to appear completely clueless about his son's hobby. When Lauren arrived with the boys, Alex's heart swelled at the sight of Ryan proudly wearing his team uniform, Ethan with a book tucked under his arm, and Caleb trailing behind, still maintaining his suspicious distance. "You came," Ryan exclaimed, surprisingly delighted. "I promised I would." Alex replied, the simple statement carrying more weight than any business contract he'd ever signed. Lauren seemed equally surprised by his punctuality. Ryan's playing second base today. The bleachers are over there. As they settled in to watch the game, Alex found himself genuinely invested in every pitch. He cheered enthusiastically when Ryan made a play, drawing amused glances from Lauren. Have you ever been to a professional game? Ethan asked quietly, looking up from his book during a lull in the action. Many times, Alex answered. Would you like to go sometime, all of you? Ethan's eyes widened. The Red Sox? Front row behind home plate, Alex promised, then hesitated, glancing at Lauren for approval. She gave a slight nod. If the boys would like that. Even Caleb, Ethan whispered, glancing at his brother who sat determinedly on Lauren's other side, pretending not to listen. Especially Caleb, Alex confirmed. When Ryan's team won by a single run, the boy ran to Alex first, surprising everyone including himself. Awkwardly, Alex high-fived him, fighting the instinct to hug this child who was still essentially a stranger. Did you see my catch, Dad? Ryan asked, the word Dad falling casually from his lips. Alex froze, emotion threatening to overwhelm him. I did. It was amazing. Later, as they enjoyed ice cream from a nearby stand, Ryan's easy chatter filled the space between them. Ethan occasionally added to the conversation while Caleb silently observed, his ice cream melting untouched. Are you going to live with us now? Ryan suddenly asked, the innocent question landing like a grenade. The adults exchanged panicked glances. Nobody, Alex finally answered. I have my own place, but I'd like to spend a lot of time with you all if that's okay. Every day? Ryan pressed. Well, I work a lot. Like Mom, Ethan interjected. She works 2 jobs sometimes. Alex looked at Lauren questioningly. She shrugged, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. Medical billing during the day, online classes at night. Single motherhood isn't cheap. For the first time, Alex truly comprehended the financial strain Lauren must have endured. His mind raced with calculations, private school tuitions, college, funds, healthcare, all expenses she'd shouldered alone while he'd been accumulating billions. As they walked back to the parking lot, Lauren pulled Alex aside. They have a school concert next Friday evening. All 3 perform. I'll be there, Alex promised immediately. It starts at 6:30 sharp, Lauren emphasized. Please don't be late, especially Caleb. He's playing piano. Watching Lauren drive away. With the boys, Alex felt a profound shift in his priorities. The acquisition meeting scheduled for Friday suddenly seemed insignificant compared to a 6-year-old's piano recital. On impulse, he pulled out his phone and called his assistant. Cancel my Tokyo trip next week, he instructed, and move Friday's board meeting to lunch. I have an appointment at 6:30 that I absolutely cannot miss. For the first time in his adult life, Alexander Bennett was arranging his business around his personal life, not the other way around. The week passed in a flurry of activity as Alex attempted to balance his corporate responsibilities with his newfound role as a father. He visited the boys twice more, once for a quick dinner and once to help with homework, each visit peeling back another layer of their personalities. Ryan was outgoing and adventurous, Ethan introspective and brilliant, while Caleb remained wary, his talents hidden behind walls of self-protection. Friday afternoon found Alex in his downtown office, anxiously watching the clock during a video conference with international investors. The meeting was scheduled to end at 5 p.m., giving him plenty of time to reach the elementary school by 6:30. As you can see, gentlemen, the Q3 projections are extremely favorable, Alex explained, clicking through his presentation with one eye on his watch. We anticipate a 22% growth in the Asian markets alone. His phone vibrated silently against the desk. A text from Lauren. Reminder, concert starts 6:30 sharp. Boys are nervous. Alex sent a quick thumbs-up emoji, something he'd never done in a professional context before. His assistant, Miranda, gave him a curious look but continued taking notes. At 4:52 p.m., Just as Alex was preparing to conclude the meeting, a major investor from Singapore raised his hand. "Before we adjourn, Mr. Bennett, I have serious concerns about the supply chain disruptions in Malaysia. Perhaps we could extend our discussion?" Alex felt a knot form in his stomach. "I'd be happy to address those concerns, Mr. Tan, but I'm afraid I have a prior commitment at 6:30 that I cannot reschedule." Miranda's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Alexander Bennett never cut meetings short for personal reasons. Mr. Tan frowned. "This is a $300 million commitment we're discussing, Mr. Bennett. Surely whatever dinner reservation you have can wait." Before Alex could respond, his phone began ringing. Lauren again. With an apologetic gesture to the video conference, he answered. "Alex, it's an emergency." Lauren's voice was tight with panic. "Ethan fell at recess. We're at Massachusetts General. They think his arm might be broken." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "I'll be right there," he said immediately, ending the call. He turned back to the stunned faces on the screen. "Gentlemen, I apologize, but I have a family emergency. My son is in the hospital." Without waiting for responses, he ended the meeting and rushed toward the elevator, shouting instructions to Miranda about rescheduling. 20 minutes later, Alex sprinted through the hospital entrance, his tie askew and panic evident on his face. He found Lauren in the pediatric waiting area, Ryan and Caleb sitting quietly beside her. "Where is he? Is he okay?" Alex demanded, out of breath. Lauren looked up, surprise registering in her eyes. "He's getting an X-ray. The doctor thinks it's just a fracture, not a break." Alex collapsed into a chair beside Caleb, who was staring at his shoes. "What happened?" "He fell from the monkey bars," Ryan explained. "There was blood." "He's going to miss his violin solo," Caleb added quietly, his first voluntary words to Alex. He practiced for weeks. The implied accusation hung in the air. Ethan would miss his performance just as they all surely expected Alex to miss it as well. An hour later, when Ethan emerged with a blue cast and pain medication, he brightened at seeing Alex. "You came," he said simply. "Of course I came," Alex replied, kneeling to examine the cast. "You're my son." On the ride home, with Ethan drowsy from medication in the backseat of Lauren's car and Alex following in his Bentley, his phone rang continuously with calls from Singapore. He silenced it without a second thought. Later that evening, as he helped Lauren put the exhausted boys to bed, his assistant texted, "Mr. Tan has concerns about your commitment to the deal after today's abrupt departure." Alex typed back a response. That would have been unthinkable just a week earlier. He'll have to wait. Family emergency takes priority. As he left Lauren's house that night, he realized with perfect clarity that something fundamental had shifted in his world. For the first time in his adult life, Alexander Bennett had chosen family over business without a moment's hesitation, and he didn't regret it for a second. Alex's midnight oil burned bright as he attempted to salvage the Singapore deal remotely. After 3 hours of emergency calls, the investors had reluctantly agreed to a 1-week extension. Looking at his watch, 3:17 a.m., he realized he had promised to take the boys to the Science Museum the next morning. 4 hours of sleep would have to suffice. When he arrived at Lauren's house, coffee in hand and fatigue evident in his eyes, she gave him a concerned look. "Rough night?" "Nothing important," he lied, forcing enthusiasm as the boys bounded down the stairs. The museum trip started wonderfully. Ryan raced from exhibit to exhibit, his energy infectious. Ethan, despite his cast, methodically read every scientific explanation. Even Caleb showed excitement at the dinosaur display, momentarily dropping his guard. "Dad, look at this," Ryan called, using that word, "Dad," that still sent a jolt through Alex's heart. "It's a real meteorite." Alex joined him, genuinely fascinated by his son's enthusiasm. As they examined the space rock together, Alex's phone vibrated. Singapore again. "I need to take this," he said apologetically, stepping away. "Just 2 minutes. The call stretched to 15 minutes as Alex paced behind a planetary exhibit, negotiating terms while watching his sons from afar. When he returned, the easy camaraderie had evaporated. Caleb's walls were back up. You promised it would be quick, the boy accused. I know, buddy. Work emergency. But I'm all yours now. Caleb shrugged, turning away. Whatever. By afternoon, Alex's phone had interrupted them 4 more times. During lunch at the museum cafe, it rang again. His assistant, frantic about document revisions needed immediately. I'm sorry, Alex sighed, looking at 3 disappointed faces. This is really important. More important than us? Caleb asked bluntly. The question hit like a physical blow. Of course not, it's okay, Lauren interjected. Boys, finish your lunch, Mr. Bennett needs to work. Mr. Bennett? Alex repeated, hurt by the formality. Lauren's eyes communicated volumes. You're not earning Dad today. Before Alex could respond, his phone rang again. Singapore would not be ignored. Take it, Lauren said coldly. We'll meet you at the exit. In an hour. When Alex finally finished his call marathon, he rushed to the museum exit. No sign of Lauren or the boys. A text arrived. We took an Uber home. Caleb was upset. That evening he drove to their house, heart heavy with regret. Caleb refused to come downstairs. He's been practicing piano all afternoon, Lauren explained. His recital is next weekend since this week's was canceled. Lauren, I'm sorry. The Singapore deal. I don't care about Singapore, Alex, she interrupted. 3 little boys were excited to spend the day with their father, and instead they got to watch him walk away repeatedly to talk to strangers about money. It's not about money, he protested weakly. It's about responsibility. Thousands of employees depend on this deal. Lauren's eyes flashed. And what about your responsibility to them? She pointed upstairs. You can't have it both ways, Alex. You can't be the devoted father and the always available CEO. Something has to give. From upstairs came the sound of halting piano notes. Caleb practicing the piece he should have performed yesterday. The boys have another concert next Friday, Lauren said. Caleb has been reassigned the opening piano solo. It's at 6:30 p.m., just like the last one. The implied challenge was clear. Choose correctly this time. I'll be there, Alex promised. No interruptions. As he drove home, the recital reminder already entered into his phone with priority in capital letters. Alex realized that his world of clear metrics and measurable success had been upended. In business, he'd always found ways to maximize both profit and efficiency. But parenthood offered no such convenient optimizations. It demanded presence, consistency, and sacrifice. For the first time, Alexander Bennett genuinely didn't know if he could successfully navigate both worlds. Something would indeed have to give, but he wasn't ready to admit which side would have to lose. The harsh fluorescent lights of Alexander's office cast long shadows across the conference room as he stood before his executive team. It was Thursday, the day before Caleb's recital, and Alex had called an emergency meeting that surprised everyone, including himself. I've made a decision, he announced, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Effective immediately, I'm implementing a company-wide restructuring. His COO, Victoria, exchanged concerned glances with the CFO. Restructuring? Alex, we're in the middle of the Singapore negotiations. This isn't the time for... It's exactly the time, Alex interrupted, uncharacteristically firm. For years, we've operated under the assumption that success requires constant availability and sacrifice of personal lives. I'm changing that paradigm. He clicked to the next slide of his hastily prepared presentation. Family First Initiative. I'm instituting flexible work hours, remote work options, and a strict no-contact policy during designated family times. Starting with myself. Dead silence filled the room. These executives had watched Alexander build his empire through round-the-clock dedication and unwavering focus. The man standing before them now, talking about family time, was unrecognizable. Alex, Victoria finally spoke, her tone careful. Is everything okay? This seems sudden. He took a deep breath. I recently discovered I have 3 6-year-old sons. More stunned silence. Triplets, actually, he added, a small smile playing at his lips. And I've been missing their entire lives because of the work culture I created. That changes now. His phone buzzed. Singapore again. Alex silenced it without looking. The board won't approve this, his CFO warned. Tan is already questioning. Your commitment? Then I'll convince them, Alex replied simply. Or I'll step down as CEO. The statement shocked even him. Had he really just threatened to abandon the company he'd built from nothing? For children he'd known less than a month? Yes. Yes, he had. After the meeting, Victoria followed him to his office. This is about more than just discovering you have children, isn't it? Alex paused, considering his answer carefully. I spent 6 years in Asia building an empire. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. But when I saw my sons for the first time, his voice caught unexpectedly. I realized I've been accumulating wealth for a future that had no meaning without them in it. Victoria studied him for a moment. I've never seen you like this, Alex. Neither have I, he admitted. But I made a promise to be at Caleb's piano recital tomorrow evening, and nothing, not even Singapore's billions, will make me break it. Later that evening, Alex made an unprecedented visit to his architect's office. I need this designed immediately, he explained, sketching a rough concept on a notepad. A corporate campus with integrated family facilities, childcare, recreation, educational spaces, somewhere employees can work without sacrificing family connections. The architect looked bewildered. This is revolutionary, Mr. Bennett, but the cost is irrelevant, Alex finished. Draw up preliminary plans for Monday. On his drive home, Alex called the one person he thought might understand, his college roommate, now a father of 4. Mark, how do you do it? Balance work and family? Mark laughed. You don't balance, Alex. That implies equal weight. You prioritize. Sometimes work wins, sometimes family does. But if family doesn't win most of the time, you've already lost. Those words echoed in Alex's mind as he entered his empty penthouse. For the first time, the sleek minimalist design felt cold rather than sophisticated. On impulse, he pulled out his phone and ordered 3 identical desk frames. Tomorrow, after the recital, he would ask Lauren for photos of the boys to fill them. As he lay in bed that night, Alex realized he was anxious about the board's reaction to his new initiatives. But for once in his driven life, their approval seemed secondary. Tomorrow at 6:30, he would be sitting front row at an elementary school auditorium, watching his son play piano. The Singapore investors could wait. Alexander Bennett, who had negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, fell asleep worrying about whether Caleb would smile if he brought flowers to the recital, and realizing, with startling clarity, that the boy's smile now meant more to him than any business success ever could. Friday morning arrived with Alex's phone blaring at 5 a.m. A crisis in the Singapore negotiations demanded immediate attention. He worked feverishly from his home office, rescheduling meetings and delegating responsibilities to ensure his afternoon would remain clear. At 11 a.m., his intercom buzzed. The board chairman had arrived unannounced. Richard, Alex greeted him cautiously. This is unexpected. The older man didn't waste time on pleasantries. What's this about restructuring the entire company, and rumors you're considering stepping down? The board is in panic mode, Alex. I'm implementing changes to create a healthier work environment, Alex explained, offering coffee that Richard declined. Not stepping down unless forced to. This is about these children you suddenly discovered? Richard's tone was skeptical. Alex, I understand the shock, but making rash decisions that affect thousands of employees. There's nothing rash about it, Alex interrupted, his voice firm. I've given this considerable thought. In what, 2 weeks? Richard scoffed. You've spent 6 years building this company's Asian presence, and now you're willing to jeopardize everything for my sons, Alex finished. Yes, I am. Richard studied him carefully. The board meeting on Monday will be contentious. You need to be prepared. I'll be there with a complete proposal, Alex assured him, glancing at his watch. But right now, I have preparations to make for a piano recital. After Richard left, Alex made one last call to his Singapore team, establishing clear boundaries. No contact between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. tonight, under any circumstances. At 4:30, he surprised his assistant by leaving the office with a bouquet of flowers. Cancel anything else that comes up, he instructed. Family priority. Alex arrived at the elementary school auditorium 30 minutes early, securing a front row seat. The space filled quickly with parents clutching cameras and younger siblings, fidgeting in formal clothes. Lauren arrived with Ryan and Ethan, surprise evident on her face when she spotted Alex already seated. "You're early," she remarked as the boys slid in beside him. "I wouldn't miss this," Alex replied simply. When the curtain rose, revealing a nervous line of young performers, Alex's eyes immediately found Caleb. The boy looked small behind the grand piano, his face a mask of concentration as he searched the audience. When he spotted Alex, his eyes widened slightly. Alex gave him an encouraging thumbs up and something magical happened. Caleb smiled at him, a genuine smile that transformed his serious face. Then his small fingers touched the keys, and Alex's world narrowed to this moment, this child, this music. Caleb played beautifully, his technique remarkable for his age. Emotion welled in Alex's chest, pride, love, regret for the years missed, all mixing together until he found himself blinking back unexpected tears. When the performance ended, Alex was the first on his feet, applauding with unrestrained enthusiasm. As Caleb took his bow, his eyes found his father's again, and the smile that spread across his face was worth more than any business deal. Afterward, as families mingled in the crowded hallway, Caleb approached Alex hesitantly. "Did you really like it?" he asked, his voice small. Alex knelt to his level. "I thought it was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." He offered the flowers, and Caleb accepted them with a solemn nod that didn't quite hide his pleasure. "I practiced. A lot," he admitted. "I could tell," Alex replied. "You're incredibly talented." Lauren watched this exchange with guarded hope, while Ryan and Ethan jostled for their father's attention, eager to show him the art display down the hall. As Alex allowed himself to be led through the school by 3 increasingly comfortable boys, his phone remained silent in his pocket. For the first time in his adult life, Alexander Bennett was fully present in a moment that had nothing to do with business and everything to do with connection. Later, as he helped Lauren load tired boys into her car, she studied him thoughtfully. "Something's different about you tonight," she observed. Alex smiled. "I made a choice today, Lauren. The right one." He didn't elaborate, but as he watched her drive away, he felt the certainty of his new direction settling into his bones. Monday's board meeting would be challenging, but tonight had confirmed what his heart already knew. He was finally investing in what truly mattered. The doorbell's cheerful chime cut through the Saturday morning cartoon marathon that had the triplets entranced. Lauren, up to her elbows in pancake batter, called out, "Can you get that, Ryan?" Ryan bounded to the door, expecting Alex, who had promised to take them to the park. Instead, he found an older couple with suitcases. "Grandma, Grandpa," he shouted excitedly. Lauren froze in the kitchen, pancake batter dripping onto the floor. Her parents' surprise visits were typically delightful, but today of all days. "Mom? Dad?" She hurried to the doorway, wiping her hands on her apron. "You didn't tell me you were coming." "And missed the chance to surprise our grandsons?" Her mother laughed, already being mobbed by 3 excited boys. "Thomas had a conference in Boston cancel, so we thought we'd drive up from Providence." Lauren's father kissed her cheek. "You look tired, sweetheart. Everything okay?" Before she could answer, the sound of a luxury car pulling up drew everyone's attention. Alex emerged from his Bentley, looking casual but impeccable in designer, jeans and a polo shirt. "Who's that?" her father asked, his protective instincts immediately triggered. "That's our dad," Ryan announced proudly, racing outside. The stunned silence from her parents was deafening. Lauren closed her eyes briefly, summoning strength for the inevitable confrontation. "Your father?" her mother repeated in disbelief. By the time Alex reached the door, his confident stride had faltered under the icy stares of Lauren's parents. He recognized them from photos Lauren had shown him years ago. "Mr. and Mrs. Parker." He extended his hand, which Thomas Parker shook, with excessive firmness. "I'm Alexander Bennett." Oh, we know exactly who you are, Thomas replied coldly. The man who abandoned our daughter 6 years ago. An uncomfortable silence fell, broken only by Ethan's practical observation. I don't think we'll all fit in Dad's car for the park now. An hour later, the adults sat in strained silence around the kitchen table while the boys played in the backyard. Lauren had explained the recent developments, though her parents remained skeptical. So you just happened to spot them at Walmart and suddenly decided to become Father of the Year? Thomas challenged, arms crossed. Alex met his gaze steadily. I understand your skepticism, sir. I don't deserve an easy welcome into their lives. No, you don't, Ellen Parker agreed. Our daughter worked 2 jobs while taking night classes to provide for these boys. Where were you? Building an empire. That meant nothing, Alex replied honestly. I didn't know about the boys, but that's no excuse. I should have answered Lauren's calls. He's really trying, Dad, Lauren interjected softly. He's been consistent these past weeks. Thomas scoffed. Weeks? Parenthood isn't a corporate project you can dabble in when it's convenient, young man. I know that now, Alex acknowledged. I'm making major changes at my company to prioritize family. I've even begun plans for a new corporate campus designed around work-family balance. Big promises from a man known for putting business first, Thomas remarked skeptically. The conversation might have continued its downward spiral had Ethan not entered quietly, hovering in the doorway. Grandpa? He spoke up unexpectedly. Dad helped me with my science project about constellations. We stayed up really late working on it, even though he had an important meeting the next day. The simple testament from the normally reserved boy caught everyone by surprise. And he came to my baseball game, Ryan added, appearing behind his brother. And Caleb's recital, too. He missed meetings for that, Caleb confirmed, completing the triplet procession. His phone kept ringing, but he didn't answer it. Alex looked at the boys with undisguised emotion. He hadn't realized they'd noticed these small choices he'd been making. Thomas Parker studied his grandsons, then turned to Alex with slightly softened eyes. They seem to think you're making an effort. I am, sir, Alex replied. And I'll continue, to every day, whether I have your approval or not. Later, as the expanded group headed to the park, the boys insisting both grandparents and father come along, Thomas fell into step beside Alex. I'll be watching you closely, Bennett, he warned quietly. I'd expect nothing less, Alex replied. They deserve a grandfather who protects them fiercely. Thomas gave him a surprised look, perhaps recognizing for the first time that this wealthy businessman might genuinely care about something beyond his bottom line. Ahead of them, the boys raced along the sidewalk, 3 identical heads bobbing with excitement, unaware of the complex adult dynamics swirling around them, or the way their simple presence had irrevocably changed the trajectory of their father's life. Sunday morning found Alex sitting cross-legged on Lauren's living room floor, surrounded by Legos and 3 increasingly comfortable boys. The previous day's tension with Lauren's parents had eased somewhat, though Thomas still watched Alex like a hawk from his armchair. Dad, can you help me with this spaceship? Ryan asked, pushing a half-constructed model toward Alex. Sure, buddy, Alex replied, carefully examining the colorful instruction booklet. Business documents typically contained fewer pictures and more spreadsheets, but he approached this task with the same concentration he'd give a billion-dollar contract. From the kitchen doorway, Lauren and her mother observed the domestic scene. With different expressions, Ellen still cautious, Lauren's increasingly hopeful. He seems different from how you described him, Ellen whispered. Lauren nodded. He is different. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the workaholic businessman to reappear, but she gestured toward the scene, where Alex was now helping Caleb balance a particularly tricky Lego tower, while simultaneously answering Ethan's questions about how real rockets work. And the boys? Ellen asked. How are they handling all this? Better than I expected, Lauren admitted. Especially Caleb. He was so closed off at first, but now. As if on cue, Caleb's serious expression melted into laughter at something Alex whispered to him. The sound, so rare and precious, brought tears to Lauren's eyes. Mom, I never thought they'd have this, she said softly. A father who actually shows up. The morning transitioned into lunch preparations, with Alex volunteering to grill in the backyard. Thomas reluctantly joined him, ostensibly to make sure he didn't burn the hamburgers. "My daughter says you're making changes at your company," Thomas remarked, watching Alex arrange patties on the grill. Alex nodded. "Tomorrow I present my plan to the board, a complete restructuring to prioritize family-friendly policies. Risky move in your position." "Necessary one," Alex corrected. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, about parenthood not being a corporate project." He flipped a burger with unexpected skill. "You were right. It's not. It's much more important." Thomas studied him, trying to reconcile this man with the villain he'd constructed in his mind over the years. "What happens if your board rejects these changes?" he finally asked. "Then I'll have a decision to make," Alex replied honestly. "But I've already made the most important one. These boys come first now." Lunch was a lively affair, with 3 boys talking over each other, sharing stories and inside jokes that Alex was slowly beginning to understand. As they cleared the plates, Ethan tugged at Alex's sleeve. "Dad, can you show me that constellation book you were telling me about?" "The one with the myths?" "It's at my apartment," Alex explained. "But I could bring it next time, or you could all come see where I live," he finished, the idea forming as he spoke. He glanced at Lauren uncertainly. "If that's okay?" Lauren hesitated, then nodded. "I think they'd like that." An hour later, the triplets stood wide-eyed in the lobby of Alex's luxury high-rise, marveling at the doorman in uniform and the enormous chandelier. "You live here?" Ryan gasped, pressing his nose against the elevator's glass wall as they ascended to the penthouse. When the doors opened directly into Alex's apartment, revealing floor-to-ceiling windows with panoramic city views, even Lauren couldn't suppress a small gasp. The space was immaculate, minimalist, and distinctly unlived in. "It's like a spaceship," Caleb decided, running his finger along a sleek countertop. "It's not very cozy," Alex admitted, suddenly seeing his home through their eyes. "But the view is nice at sunset." As the boys explored, Alex noticed Lauren lingering by a side table where he'd placed the 3 photo frames he'd ordered, still empty. "I was hoping," he began hesitantly, "that maybe I could have some pictures of them, for here and my office." Lauren smiled, genuinely touched. "I think we can arrange that." Later, as they watched the sun set over Boston Harbor, the boys pressed against the windows in wonder. Lauren moved to stand beside Alex. "This is the first time they've been quiet all day," she observed with a soft laugh. Alex turned to her, struck suddenly by how beautiful she looked in the golden light. "Thank you for today, Lauren, for letting me into their lives, into your life." Their eyes met, a current of unspoken emotions passing between them. For a moment, Alex thought he glimpsed something beyond co-parenting courtesy in her gaze, something that recalled their shared past and hinted at a possible future. The moment was broken by Ryan's excited shout about a passing helicopter, but something had shifted between them. As Alex showed the boys his telescope, helping them take turns looking at the emerging stars, he felt a contentment he'd never experienced in this apartment, or perhaps anywhere. For the first time, his luxurious penthouse felt like it might, someday, become a home. Monday morning arrived with a weight of anticipation that Alex hadn't felt since his first major acquisition. As he straightened his tie before the mirror, his phone buzzed with a text from Lauren. "Good luck today. The boys made you something." Attached was a photo of 3 handmade cards decorated with crayon drawings, a rocket ship from Ryan, stars and planets from Ethan, and a surprisingly detailed grand piano from Caleb. Each was signed with wobbly letters. "Good luck, Dad." Alex's throat tightened. He saved the image as his phone background, a reminder of what was truly at stake today. The Bennett Innovations boardroom fell silent as Alex entered. 14 faces turned toward him, expressions ranging from curiosity to outright skepticism. Victoria, his COO, gave him an encouraging nod. "Ladies and gentlemen," Alex began, "thank you for convening on short notice. I've called this meeting to propose a fundamental shift in our corporate structure and philosophy. For the next 30 minutes, Alex presented his vision with the confidence that had built his empire. Charts displayed productivity increases at companies with family-friendly policies. Architectural renderings showed his revolutionary campus concept. Financial projections demonstrated long-term benefits despite short-term costs. When he finished, Richard, the board chairman, cleared his throat. "This is ambitious, Alex. But what about the Singapore deal? Mr. Tan has expressed concerns about your recent distractions." "I've spoken with Mr. Tan this morning," Alex replied smoothly. "He's intrigued by our new direction. In fact, he's requested to visit the proposed campus site personally next month." This wasn't entirely true. The conversation had been far more contentious, but Alex had years of negotiation experience to draw upon. The discussion that followed was intense. Board members raised valid concerns about costs, implementation challenges, and shareholder reactions. Alex addressed each, methodically, his resolve unwavering. "Bottom line," asked Diane, a longtime board member, "why this drastic change now?" Alex paused, considering a politically safe answer before opting for honesty. 3 weeks ago, I discovered I have 3 6-year-old sons I never knew existed. Boys I've missed watching grow up because I was building this company instead. The ID room grew uncomfortably quiet. "I'm not asking permission to be their father," Alex continued. "That's non-negotiable. I'm proposing a way for Bennett Innovations to lead a corporate revolution. One that recognizes our employees as whole people with families and lives beyond these walls." The meeting adjourned without a clear resolution. The board would reconvene Friday to vote after reviewing Alex's proposal in detail. As executives filed out, Victoria lingered. "Bold move, bringing your personal situation into it." "It's not just personal anymore," Alex replied. "It's about what kind of company, what kind of man I want to be." His phone rang as he returned to his office. Lauren's name flashed on the screen. "How did it go?" she asked. "They're deliberating. Votes on Friday." He hesitated. "Is everything okay?" Her voice changed, tension evident. "It's Caleb. The school nurse called. His asthma's flaring up badly. I'm taking him to the hospital now." Alex's heart plummeted. "Which hospital? I'll meet you there." "Mass General Pediatric Emergency." "But Alex, don't you have meetings all afternoon?" "Cancel them," he said without hesitation. "I'm on my way." 30 minutes later, Alex rushed into the pediatric waiting area to find Lauren looking pale with worry. Ryan and Ethan sat quietly beside her, their usual energy subdued. "Where is he?" Alex asked, breathless from running. "With the doctors," Lauren replied. "They're giving him breathing treatments. They said his oxygen levels were concerning." Alex sank into the chair beside her, taking her hand instinctively. She didn't pull away. "He was fine this morning," she said, her voice breaking. Then during recess. "Hey." Alex squeezed her hand gently. "He'll be okay. Kids with asthma bounce back quickly." Hours passed in the sterile waiting room. Alex's phone vibrated constantly with messages from Singapore, the board, Victoria. He ignored them all, focused solely on the double doors through which news of Caleb would eventually come. When a doctor finally appeared, both parents jumped to their feet. "Caleb's responding well to treatment," she assured them. "We'd like to keep him overnight for observation, but he's stable now." The relief that flooded Alex was unlike anything he'd experienced in business, more powerful than closing any deal, more profound than any stock market victory. "Can we see him?" he asked. "Of course, he's been asking for both of you." As they followed the doctor, Lauren leaned close to Alex. "Your board meeting." "Doesn't matter," he replied firmly. "Not now." And in that moment of crisis, with his son's health hanging in the balance, Alexander Bennett realized with perfect clarity that no business opportunity, not even his beloved company, would ever again take precedence over the 4 people walking beside him through those hospital doors. Pale, morning light filtered through the hospital blinds as Alex awoke, his neck stiff from sleeping in the visitor's chair. Across the room, Lauren dozed in an identical chair, her hand still loosely holding Caleb's. The boy slept peacefully now, his breathing even and unlabored after a night of treatments. Alex checked his phone. 27 missed calls, 43 texts, and 68 emails. The business world was imploding in his absence, yet sitting here, watching his son's chest rise and fall, nothing had ever felt more right. A soft knock at the door preceded a nurse entering with breakfast trays. The smell of hospital pancakes roused Lauren and Caleb. "Dad, you stayed all night?" Caleb asked, surprise evident in his sleepy voice. "Of course I did," Alex replied, moving to sit on the edge of the bed. "How are you feeling, buddy?" "Better," Caleb admitted, accepting the juice box Alex unwrapped for him. "Can I go home today?" Before Alex could answer, his phone buzzed again. Richard, the board chairman, for the 5th time. With a resigned sigh, he answered, stepping into the hallway. "This better be important, Richard." "Important? You've been completely unreachable for 18 hours. The Singapore team is threatening to pull out entirely, and the board vote has been moved up to today instead of Friday." Alex's stomach tightened. "Today? That's not what we agreed to." "Things change," Richard replied coldly. "Your absence yesterday sent a concerning message. The meeting is at noon. If you're not there, I can't guarantee the outcome will favor your new direction." The implied threat was clear. Alex checked his watch. 9:17 a.m. The doctor had mentioned potentially discharging Caleb by mid-morning. "I'll be there," Alex said finally. "But Richard, pull something like this again and you'll be looking for a new CEO regardless of the vote." When he returned to the room, Lauren was helping Caleb with his breakfast. Her eyes met Alex's, reading his expression. "Work crisis?" He nodded grimly. "Board vote got moved to noon today. I need to be there." A shadow passed over her face. Disappointment, but not surprise. She'd been down this road before. "It's okay," she said quietly. "We'll manage. Here." "No," Alex replied firmly. "I'm staying until Caleb's discharged. I just need to be at that meeting by noon." The doctor arrived at 10:30 a.m., reviewing Caleb's improved vitals. "You're looking much better today, young man. I think we can send you home, but you'll need to take it easy for a few days." As they completed the discharge paperwork, Alex's phone continued its relentless buzzing. Victoria had sent the latest Singapore contract revisions marked urgent, and his lawyers were demanding immediate consultation. By 11:15 a.m., they were finally leaving the hospital, Caleb moving slowly but steadily between his parents. Alex checked his watch again. He could still make the meeting if he went directly to the office. "Lauren," he began hesitantly. "The meeting—" "I know," she interrupted, resigned. "You need to go." Alex looked at Caleb's pale face, then at his watch again, the weight of his company's future hanging in the balance. A month ago, this would have been no choice at all. "No," he said finally. "I'm coming home with you and Caleb." Lauren's eyes widened. "But your board vote can happen without me," Alex finished. "I've made my proposal. Now they can decide what kind of company they want to be." He made one quick call to Victoria. "I won't be at the meeting. Caleb's health comes first. Present my proposal as planned and let me know the outcome." The ride home was quiet, Caleb drowsy from medication, Lauren stealing occasional glances at Alex. When they arrived, he carried his sleeping son to bed, then joined Lauren in the kitchen. "Why?" she asked simply. "Because 6 years ago I made the wrong choice," Alex replied. "I chose ambition over love, and it cost me everything that actually mattered. I won't make that mistake again." Before Lauren could respond, Alex's phone rang, Victoria calling from the boardroom. "You're on speaker, Alex," she announced. "The board has questions about your campus proposal before voting." "Perfect timing," Alex replied, motioning for Lauren to listen. "I'd like to revise my proposal." "Revise?" Richard's voice sounded alarmed. "Yes," Alex continued confidently. "I initially presented this as a business strategy. Improved retention, productivity benefits, positive PR. But that's not why we should do this." He took a deep breath, catching Lauren's eye. We should do this because it's right. Because our employees deserve to be present for soccer games and piano recitals. Because no quarterly report is worth missing your child's first steps or 6th birthday. A stunned silence followed. That's a lovely sentiment, Richard finally replied. But sentiment doesn't drive shareholder value. Doesn't it? Alex challenged. What if Bennett Innovations became the first major tech company to truly prioritize families? Not just with lip service, but with revolutionary infrastructure? We wouldn't just attract talent. We'd create loyalty that money can't buy. Lauren's hand found his across the table, squeezing gently. The vote stands at 7 in favor, 6 opposed, 1 abstaining, Victoria announced after a tense silence. Motion carries. As the call ended, Alex exhaled slowly, the weight of weeks lifting from his shoulders. What happens now? Lauren asked softly. Now, Alex smiled. We build something revolutionary. The architectural renderings spread across Lauren's kitchen table showcased a vision unlike anything in corporate America. A sprawling campus with modern office buildings surrounding a central green space, adjacent to a state-of-the-art childcare facility, elementary school, and family recreation center. What do you think? Alex asked, nervous energy evident as he watched Lauren examine the plans. 2 weeks had passed since the board's narrow approval of his radical proposal. In that time, Alex had thrown himself into the project with characteristic intensity, but now with a distinctly different purpose. It's incredible, Lauren admitted, tracing the outline of a playground area. But Alex, the cost must be astronomical. Worth every penny, he replied without hesitation. We've secured the land in Newton, close enough to the city but with space. For everything. Construction could begin next month. Lauren shook her head in amazement. You've certainly created waves. I saw an article about you in the business section yesterday. Billionaire CEO revolutionizes work-life balance. Alex grimaced. The publicity wasn't my goal. Maybe not, but people are paying attention. My supervisor asked if your company is hiring. Apparently, parents with professional experience are updating their resumes in droves. Their conversation was interrupted by the boys bursting through the door, returning from an outing with their grandparents, who had extended their visit upon seeing the positive changes in their grandsons' lives. Dad, Ryan exclaimed. Grandpa took us fishing. I caught 2. Thomas Parker followed behind, his initial hostility toward Alex softened by weeks of observing his commitment to the boys. You've created quite a stir in the business world, Bennett, Thomas remarked, examining the campus plans. My colleagues can't stop talking about it. It's still tentative, Alex cautioned. Not everyone's on board. As if summoned by his words, Alex's phone rang, his CFO looking increasingly panicked as material costs soared and investors questioned the ambitious timeline. I need to take this, Alex apologized, stepping into the hallway. The call confirmed his fears. Key investors were threatening to withdraw support, concerned about the project's unprecedented scale and potentially limited ROI. When Alex returned to the kitchen, his expression was troubled. Lauren recognized it immediately. Problems? She asked quietly, while the boys excitedly showed their grandfather the campus designs. Nothing I can't handle, Alex assured her, though uncertainty flickered behind his confident facade. Just some investors getting cold feet. Lauren studied him carefully. Is the project in jeopardy? No, he said firmly, watching Ryan trace the outline of the school building with his finger. I'll make this happen, whatever it takes. Later, as Alex prepared to leave, Lauren walked him to his car. You know, she said hesitantly, what you're doing, it's changing more than just your company, it's changing them. She nodded toward the house where the boys played inside. And it's changing you. The simple observation struck Alex deeply. She was right. The driven CEO who had returned to Boston weeks ago was transforming into someone entirely different. Someone who measured success not in dollar signs but in his children's smiles. For the better, I hope? He asked, suddenly vulnerable. Lauren's smile held warmth he hadn't seen in years. Definitely for the better. As he drove away, Alex made a silent promise to himself and his sons. No matter what obstacles arose, this vision would become reality. Not for his legacy or his company's bottom line, but for 3 little boys who deserved a father who prioritized what truly mattered. Tensions ran high at Bennett Innovations headquarters. The morning's headlines had been devastating. Singapore investors pull out of Bennett family campus project. The ambitious vision that had energized employees and captured media attention now teetered on the brink of collapse. Alex paced his office, phone pressed to his ear. "We can secure alternative funding," he insisted to his increasingly agitated CFO. "The project proceeds as planned." Hanging up, he checked his watch. 3:15 p.m. Ethan's chess tournament final began at 4 p.m. across town. The board had called an emergency meeting for the same time to address the funding crisis. Victoria knocked on his open door. "Alex, everyone's gathering in the boardroom. They're expecting a detailed contingency plan." Alex stared at the chessboard. On his desk, a gift from Ethan, who had been practicing diligently for today's tournament. The boy had asked again this morning, voice small and uncertain. "You'll be there, right, Dad?" "I'm not attending the board meeting," Alex announced, removing his tie. Victoria blinked in confusion. "What?" "Alex, the entire project is at risk. Without Singapore's backing—" "I'm aware of the situation," he interrupted, gathering his keys. "But my son has a chess tournament final at 4, and I promised I'd be there." "You're choosing a children's chess game over a crisis that could determine your company's future?" Victoria's disbelief was palpable. Alex smiled, a strange calm settling over him. "I'm not choosing one over the other. I'm prioritizing correctly, possibly for the first time in my life." He handed her a folder. "These are my contingency proposals. Present them to the board. I've included options for scaled implementation, alternative investor approaches, and a potential private funding structure. And if they demand your presence, then they'll have to wait until after I've watched my son play chess." The middle school gymnasium bustled with nervous energy when Alex arrived. He found Lauren saving him a seat in the front row, surprise evident on her face. "You made it," she said as he sat beside her. "I thought with the Singapore news." "There's an emergency board meeting happening right now," Alex admitted. "Without me?" Lauren's eyes widened. "Alex, it's okay," he assured her, spotting Ethan at the tournament table, scanning the crowd anxiously. When their eyes met, the boy's face transformed with a smile of pure relief and joy. Alex waved, his heart swelling as Ethan proudly pointed him out to his chess coach. "That's my dad," he heard his son say. Ryan and Caleb, initially restless, became engrossed in the tournament as Ethan methodically advanced through the brackets. When he reached the final round against an older boy from a prestigious private school, tension filled the gymnasium. Alex's phone vibrated continuously in his pocket. Board members, investors, lawyers, all demanding his attention. He silenced it without looking, his entire focus on Ethan's furrowed brow as he contemplated his next move. The final game stretched nearly an hour. When Ethan executed a brilliant queen sacrifice leading to checkmate, the crowd erupted. Alex leapt to his feet, cheering loudly as his normally reserved son pumped his fist in victory. On stage receiving his trophy, Ethan shyly approached the microphone. "I want to thank my coach and—" He paused, eyes finding Alex. "My dad, who taught me that sometimes you have to sacrifice something important to win in the end." Tears pricked Alex's eyes as he applauded. The simple wisdom in his son's words resonated deeply. Perhaps Alex, too, needed to sacrifice something to achieve what truly mattered. As Ethan ran to his family, trophy clutched tightly, Alex embraced him with fierce pride. "I wouldn't have missed this for anything in the world," he whispered. Only then did he check his phone. 17 missed calls and 1 text from Victoria. "Board voted 8-5. Project proceeds with modifications. You were right." Alex smiled, pocketing his phone without responding. The business crisis would still be there tomorrow. But this moment, his son's triumph, the joy on all 3 boys' faces, Lauren's hand finding his in shared pride, this was irreplaceable. In choosing his son's chess tournament over an emergency board meeting, Alexander Bennett had finally, definitively, reordered his priorities. And somehow, remarkably, both his personal and professional worlds were better for it. 6 months later, Alexander Bennett stood before a gleaming new sign: Bennett Family Innovation Campus. Beside him, 3 excited 6-year-old boys fidgeted, in their small suits waiting to cut the ceremonial ribbon. "Ready?" Alex asked, handing Caleb the oversized scissors they would share. The crowd gathered for the opening: employees, investors, media, and local families watched as the Bennett triplets cut the ribbon to thunderous applause. The revolutionary campus had become reality, though not without sacrifice. Alex had invested much of his personal fortune when funding gaps emerged. The sleek minimalist penthouse had been sold, replaced by a comfortable home just minutes from the campus, and Lauren's house. As visitors toured the facilities, state-of-the-art offices alongside a school, childcare center, and family recreation spaces, Alex slipped away to find Lauren. She stood near the playground, watching families explore what would become their new community. "It's really happening," she said as he approached. "I'm proud of you, Alex." "I couldn't have done it without you," he replied, taking her hand. Their relationship had evolved gradually over these months, friendship blossoming into something more as they co-parented their sons. "Dad," Ryan called, racing over with his brothers. "Can we show Grandma and Grandpa the science lab now?" Thomas and Ellen Parker, now fully supportive of Alex's role in their daughter's life, waited nearby with indulgent smiles. "Of course," Alex laughed, watching his sons dash off excitedly. He turned to Lauren, squeezing her hand. "I used to think success meant bigger profits and more power. Now I know it's this: family, purpose, balance." Lauren smiled, reaching up to straighten his tie affectionately. "You've built something remarkable here." "No," Alex corrected gently, drawing her close. "We're building it together." As they rejoined their family, Alexander Bennett, once defined solely by his business achievements, felt truly successful for the first time. The campus around them wasn't just a corporate innovation. It was a physical manifestation of his transformed priorities, and a promise kept to 3 little boys who had changed everything. The journey from that chance encounter outside Walmart to this moment had been challenging and imperfect, but as Alex watched his sons race ahead on the path toward their future, he knew he was finally traveling in the right direction.